So I was asked if we could go ahead and do somewhat of an easy dashboard from start to finish. Using some of the skills that we learned. Now, we, of course, in our dashboarding course is a 3-day course. We learn a lot of different skills, but there's some major ones that we use throughout over and over again. And so I try to focus on them. I also try to focus on data that probably everybody is interested in, that is auditing data. So if you're not familiar with using the auditing database and a universe and canned reports that are available to you, we of course have built some of our own, but there is, and I just went ahead and brought up the link. So Matthew Shaw has out there a site where you can link to a universe and some canned reports, and it does have some objects in it that are specific in their SQL format to, you know, if you're connecting to an audit database in the SQL Server, or if you're connecting to Oracle, or wherever you're connecting to. So you'd want to make sure in the LCMVR file that you can download from this, you can choose the one that meets your requirements. So if you're on Oracle, you want to choose the Oracle universe because it has the SQL that's used by Oracle. And then you just point the connection in that universe to point to your connection, your audit database, and you're up and running, because there are a bunch of canned reports. But we've also created our own reports. We've done a lot with the CMS database, linking some of that information, because of course the CMS database has all your latest objects, the latest versions of your objects, whereas and a lot more detail about them. And then your audit database is more about usage. So you can then look at existing objects in your CMS and link that or merge them with your audit database usage, and you can get a lot of interesting reports. So so highly encourage that, and certainly you can talk to us if you're interested in more about that. But as I said, I wanted to go ahead and use a report that was one that we were already using a bunch of information from the audit database. So of course, this is my VM that has very little usage relative to most people's environments, but I've got some out here. So we've captured, for instance, the top reports by user. So there's a whole bunch of list of reports and how many refreshes over a certain time period, average run times, and this is in milliseconds because I don't have any heavy reports, but there's a variety, you know, you could get down to seconds or hours depending on how intense your reports are, and you can order them and all that kind of stuff. We have report usage, lots of information, and again, all of this has come from our audit database that we are capturing this usage information to, and then using, like I said, that ours is a little bit modified, but for the most part, it's the auditing database that that Matthew Shaw provides as a canned database. So you too can do this as well, capture this kind of information. But the idea here is that you may be interested in creating a dashboard off of this. So maybe your first tab would have some sort of charting and some ranking and some linking sort of information on it that might be the things that you're most often interested in. So for instance, we're going to be creating this dashboard. And the idea that we're looking at is we've got the top 3 users, as well as an all users option that then we can click on. It looks like a menu option that will then filter this chart, which is the average refreshes by hour, and then also we'll filter this table, which is the actual reports and how long they're taking. And if you think about it, that might be something you'd be interested in if, you know, you're coming in, somebody says, you know, the performance is not super. You might want to make this dashboard available to your end users so they can go in and see, you know, who is running some big reports that might be weighing down your Webby processing server, for instance. So you can kind of see who's your big users and what they're running, and which ones, you know, you can rank it according to, you know, the ones that are taking the longest time. And that kind of can get you an idea of, what's happening, as well as this like refresh by hour. If somebody came to you and said, at 4 o'clock, we had this, it was really hard to get into the system, and you might say, oh, we could look at 4 o'clock and kind of look at your different users and say who's using at 4 o'clock, and et cetera. So you can kind of get an idea of that type of information just off of a dashboard. And then further, you could actually link to the other report tabs. So that's what we're going to do with this up here. And then down below, we're also going to kind of show this idea of exported documents. Similar kind of question is if you're interested in finding out, who's exporting information out to our clients. Are they, exporting PDFs and which PDFs they're exporting, or are they maybe doing some data dumps? Here's one that's an Excel file. Maybe that's somebody doing a data dump as opposed to sending it out to a client. And of course, the other one could be your some crystal reports. So there's also, of course, CSVs that could be feeding a database, or a secondary tool. That kind of information maybe is something that you'd be interested in. So, of course, whenever you start a dashboard, the first thing you want to do is sort of do a pre-design of, what are you interested in? What are the questions you're wanting to ask? What do you want the users to be able to quickly get the answer to? So that's what we're going to be doing. And this ability to have a menu or to link on, something over here that then drives the results to the right of it is a real common dashboard type of functionality. So this element linking is what it's called. We're going to be doing, and then of course the inter-document linking, element linking. That is this menu functionality and this linking here that became available early in 4, so it's been around for a while. Intra-document linking, which allows you to click, for instance, if I click on here, it goes to that tab. So and back vice versa, I can go back to dashboard. So the intra-document linking is Service Pack 6. So 4.2, Service Pack 6. And now we're on 4.9, or sorry, Service Pack 9, plus we're, into 4.3. So it's been around for a while. But if you don't use intra-document linking, if you are not at Service Pack 6 and can't use intra-document linking, then you could have always put this kind of thing into a separate document and just use open document. So still that functionality of having a dashboard that then gives you links to more detailed information is a worthy sort of functionality. So let's just first walk through how we would create this dashboard. So to start out with, I'm interested in this menu that I have over on the left side, which is the users, and I'm going to rank them. So of course, I've got I've got 2 queries here. And so since I'm wanting to pull data from one query or another, I always like to put this into query, to separate it into query. So I can see when I pull the user from here, I'm actually pulling it from the first query and not the second query, which is my exports.
Hey, Amy.
So, yes.
While you're going through everything, you do have a question that you can probably address as you're building. And it is, Is there a way to create a drop-down list in Webby using HTML or any other way, not using input controls?
So there is a, thank you for that segue. So there is a third-party option that is Need4Viz that we partner with, and they're an excellent partner that provides what we call custom elements. So there's custom elements that you can be created with scripting, and then you plug them into Webby, and they can be used for a variety of things. And one of the custom elements, and I don't think I have them set up here. Yeah, I don't. But one of these here's a couple of other custom elements. But the Need4Viz custom elements, there's a navigation package, and in that navigation package is a drop down, radio buttons, all those kinds of things to put them on the screen. Otherwise, you're kind of limited when it comes to menus, is that kind of dashboard or that kind of table look that we have like with this. You're kind of limited in that, although you could, you could potentially put buttons around them. We've shown, we have another Speak BO where we showed how to do a button. All those kinds of things we show in our dashboard class. We walk through in our dashboard class, but yeah, it's so far that's not the case. You don't have drop downs. But again, it's scriptable. Things are very scriptable, but you can make your own custom elements, but there are third parties that do that. Hope that answered that question. Okay, so back to this. So I'm going to bring in my users here, and I've got a lot more than just the users that that we had over here. What I want to do is I want to limit it to, you can imagine you have like 2,000 users. What you're really wanting to see in your dashboard is the ones that are the heavy users. So you could limit this to by ranking it, which is a really helpful tool to limit, or basically a helpful filter. So you can go into ranking here, and we can do the top 3 based on, and I'm going to do events. On report usage events. Okay, so I've got my 3 users. Now to make this look more like a menu, I'm going to make this all values, and I'll get to the reason for that later. I'll just double click into that header, and I can change the value to anything I want. And then I want them all to be the same color. So I can go into here and I can look at what color is in the background here. So I can go into the format of the cell, take a look at what that color is. And that's 11, 100, 160. So I can see, okay, that's what I want to do for these guys. So I can do the same thing, format cell, appearance. And I actually have it created already because of the other one, but I could come into here, 11, 100, and 160. And once you've created it once, just like I did before, once you created it once, it will appear in your in the list of colors in that areas down below, so you'll be able to just click on it and not have to type it in every time. Of course, I want these to also be white, so I can go into here and do white, and maybe make it a little bigger. Okay, so now I've got my menu over on the right. And now I want my chart that I'm going to be working off of. And as you do dashboards, I will mention that it's generally a good idea to name these at the top, because when you go to align things, it's nice to know which table you're aligning or which block you're aligning to. So just as a best practice, it's a good idea to do that. Okay, so the chart that I'm looking to do is I've actually created a average refreshes, and I'm going to do that by hour. Okay, so I'm going to then turn it into a column chart, and I've got average refreshes by hour. And what I probably want to do is just kind of make this look more in line with everything. I particularly like borders. But not everybody does. I want my text to be the same as this text. So this is Arial 9. It's bold on the first one. I should have made this one bold too, so they're all the same. But the same thing, I want to make this one, and this is the title. Oops, chart title, and I'm going to make that Arial 9. So looks matter. One of the things about colors, again, is that we want to kind of be consistent with colors and only use colors where they're meaningful. So for instance, when we're over here in this example, we're generally using this blue, maybe that's the company color, blue with white, but we have different other colors here because we want to definitely separate them and show that they're different. So you really want to use colors sparingly and only where it's meaningful. Otherwise, you start to have a pretty messy look. So we can go in here and format the data series, change it to a custom color, and set that to blue. All right. So then I've got a table over here that I want, and in that table, I've got user object, object type, and duration in milliseconds. So user object is the name of the report, object type, and duration in milliseconds. And the order you select it will be the order that it appears. So if you want it in a different order, it's always just a general best practice to select it in the order that you want it. Otherwise, you'd have to drag and drop and move things around. So easier way to do it. Similarly, as we did over here, the ranking is a really nice functionality. If you look at, you can imagine in your environment, you've got a whole lot of reports showing all the different durations, but really what you're only interested in is the ones that are the high duration issues. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. So we're going to go in and do a ranking here, add ranking, and the average refresher refreshes. And I think I did this by user. Oh, I do have it already on user. Anyway. Okay. Nope, I didn't get that right. Let me double check what I did over here so I can remember. I did it by object. I did it by report. Oh, event duration, of course. That's what I was missing. Okay, so event duration and by, I've forgotten already. Let's do it by user. Sorry, I've forgotten already. By object, yes, of course. All right, so now I've got that limited down, and of course I might want to make all these widen the how big they are, etc., all the way over. And of course you can go in and you can change the table names, the headers, like I can say, just change this to type or change this to document or whatever I want. But that gives you the option of, making sure that you're only looking at the ones that have the high duration time, as opposed to, all your reports, because that you're really only interested in the ones that are possibly causing you some processing issue. So then down below, before we go into the event linking, it's just generally a good idea to get your formatting done before you link it. Otherwise, you'll have to disable it, and I will show you that. But it's good to know that that could be an issue if you it's good to just do all the formatting first. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is the document size versus the exported documents. So the exported documents that we're interested in is by type. Sorry, do you want detail type? There we go. By detail. So that's going to give me my pie chart. So I'm going to turn that into a pie chart, and I'm going to get rid of the title so that I can make it the size that I want to. And it doesn't look the way I want it to. So let's take a look at that. Oops. So the assigned data of count. Sorry, I made another. I want to know how many of the reports are there. So I'm going to change this to count of reports by going to assign data, choose a different measure, one that's more meaningful to what I want, which is I've done actually as a variable. There we go. So that's more what I'm looking for. So to get rid of my title, go into format title, I just check that. And then I can make this the size that I want to down here. Okay. And now I've got the legend here is over on the right. It's kind of off the screen, but I'm going to put that down on the bottom. So if I go to legend and I go to bottom, and I've got a more meaningful size on that. Okay, so there's my pie chart. Of course, again, we're back to that, you know, hey, I've got a blue. Let's just go ahead and keep this blue the same blue as this so that my coloring kind of all makes sense and matches. I could leave it the same, but, you know, the reduced amount of colors makes it, otherwise it looks like something very different. And we could do it because in this case, it's count of reports as opposed to, you know, refresh times. So it does make sense that they are different, but you know, it depends on how you want your dashboard to look. So format data series, go to custom, and again, I can change that color. All right. So what I'm going to drive then over here is going to be another table, and that table is going to be the database recorded time, the full object path, the object type, and the detail, user and document size. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because of time, and I'm just going to do a copy of that. That's me cheating. And finding everything might take a while there. So, but the same idea is that we may want to rank this if we've got too many based on document size, or in our case, we're going to want all of them because we don't have very many. But that gives us an idea of which ones, like I said, which ones are data dumps or which ones are PDFs to clients, which ones are Crystal reports. That kind of information is vital to knowing if our processing is happening on Crystal reports, or if the process is because somebody's doing a data dump, or if really it's a kind of more legit process, is they're, you know, getting something set up for a PDF to go to a client. All right, so I can then add in a cell with a title here. I like to do this with a lot of the charts because the titles that come with charts, although this one up above with the column chart isn't so bad. A lot of the locations of the titles on some of the other charts, I'd rather have more control over. So I will actually set it up there. So I'm going to say exported documents. Okay. And I'm going to make that the same blue color. So I'm going to go to, again, kind of keeping things consistent as far as color goes. Okay, so we're in a pretty good situation, but we've got up here on top a great opportunity with the header to build in a look and feel that's very dashboardy. So our header should really be, is expected to have a title, and then any of our links for across our dashboard, contact lists, you know, contact us about, you know, those kinds of links are very much what we expect to see in a header. So working with what people expect to see is a good idea. The other great option here is that you have the format header option of going into the color and making that blue as well. So we've got kind of that look of really drawing somebody's eye to the main things, the links and so forth that you want, the title and the menu. So let's add in just a cell under report. There we go. And I'm going to add in, and by the way, this underscore here on this cell, you can get rid of that. It's a default by default. It's a default by default, but it's in the Webby default style sheet that's in the image folder on the server. You can get rid of that. I keep a lot of things default on mine just so that I can show somebody the process. Anyway, the other way, of course, would go to border and then just remove all. But I'm going to go ahead and double click in here. I'm going to say dashboard. And since it's a title, I want it to be a little bit bigger. So I am going to make it white, but I'm also going to make it the font to be more like 18. And then just drag that up a little bit. Okay, and now I have room for some of my links to my report tabs over here. So you can do links in a variety of ways. You can do the simple, what a lot of times what people will do is they'll put in a cell and put in the value like top reports by user. Okay, and then do the linking from there. So I would then do linking, document link, and I'm going to go to top reports by user. I could put a tooltip if I wanted to. Jump to top reports. Okay. And I could set that as, white and so forth. But if you've got a lot of them, it's kind of a good idea, I think, to put them all so that you can move them around together. Then they'll be kind of bound together. The menu will already be aligned and so forth if you do it as a report or as a table, excuse me. So instead of doing it that way, delete that. And I'm going to do it as a table. Now, what you'll find is you've got this body that's all white down below. But I do have the header that I can use as my top reports. And then I like all my menus to have sort of a bar separation. So I'll put a bar next to it. But what you can do is you can just drag that bottom of that, or I can just, if I can't seem to drag it, I can go in and change the height. So I can make that 0.5, for example. And now the white just goes off the screen. So I don't really have to worry about it. It's gone. And for all purposes, right? So it's out of the way. So and now I can sort of have a menu that's all kind of lined up. I can still mess with the sizes so that so that the width of everything is lined up, but I can move the whole menu together. That's why I like to do it as a table, because then it's all one piece. So then the next one would be average run times. Oh, I forgot to put my bar at the end. And then this one is report usage detail. And again, I forgot to put my bar at the type. Okay, and so forth. And just to add additional ones, you can just do insert columns on the right. But for the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just do these two. And I'm going to align them to the top. There we go. And size these to fit. Okay, so again, the advantage here is I can move this entire menu, together. Okay. Okay, so then the next thing is, of course, to add in the link. So I can do a right click and do linking, add document link, or I could just, actually I should have done add intro document link. Next one down, we're jumping right to that tab. And top report by user with whatever hyperlink or whatever tooltip, I want. And then same with the others, average run times and usage. Okay, but of course the color is terrible. So, so there's a couple things you can do about the color. The easiest thing to do about the color is each report tab has a hyperlink coloring setting under the report itself. So if you right click in the white area here and go to format report, under the appearance, you have the ability to change that color. So I can change that to white, and that's the kind of the quick way to do it. But you'll notice you've got an underscore there, and not all of, it's still, when I hover over it, it still goes to black. So there's some other settings when it comes to hyperlinks that you can manipulate, but you have to do that in the CC, the Cascade statute. So, so if you go into the document structure, whoops, not that, document summary, and you go into edit, down in here, change default style, if you export this style, you'll have the ability to then change the hyperlink functionality across the entire document. And you can actually manipulate it to be, have one kind of hyperlink for one situation for an A, and then an A1 and an A2. You can have multiple hyperlink settings. So we go over that in the dashboarding class, but that's where you would go even further if you wanted to. But the quick and dirty one is to just do a right click on the format report to get to format report, and then change the hyperlink color. All right, so now those are hyperlinked. So now if I go to top reports by user, it jumps me right over there. And I could do the same thing back. I can either add the header and change a color or something like that, or I could just add a cell and have a back button, a back option. So that one, in that case, it actually went back to here, except for that. Okay, so our new dashboard is looking pretty good. We don't have the element linking though. So that's what we want to do next. So what we want to do here is right click on here and add in our element linking. And what that's going to do is we're going to set it to filter based on what we have selected here in this menu, filter these two blocks. And again, best practice is to change the name of this. So maybe I would set this to chart. And I could set this to duration. So I know which things I'm linking to. So now if I do linking element link, and yes, I want to do it on the user, I go next. Yes, do reset, refresh, because I've got a ranking and that ranking might change. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to reset. And then I've got this, since I've named them, it's really obvious which ones I'm going to filter. So I'm going to filter chart and duration and say finish. And now if I click on administrator, it's changed. This is changed. I go to Rajesh, it's different. And if I go here, we've got a different one as well. So, so that's the idea, is you're able to use that as a menu type of thing. Similarly, we want this to drive this. So we'll do the same thing. It doesn't have to be a table. It can be a chart to drive something else. So same idea. We'll do add element link next. And yes, since we don't have to in this case, but yes, we could do that. And then we're going to filter this one, which I didn't name. And now when we click on one, we'll get just the XLSs and etc. So we've got an interactive sort of summarized, because it's ranked chart and charts as well, dashboard that also gives us the linking back and forth between them. I can set then, now that I've got all my formatting and my element linking, I can click on the tops of each of these and align them, align the top. Or I can set them relative to another. So you can see this one's like right up next against it, and I might want to give it a little bit more space and a specific amount of space. So I could say I want the left of this chart to be 0.2 from the right side of the menu. So you can do that kind of very specific spacing to get it to be exactly how you want it to look. Now, if I wanted again to make this maybe even more alert relative, I could use some conditional formatting. I could even use this hour as this chart as a link. You can have a element link that links to one thing that links to another thing. You can have all sorts of opportunities. In this case, I've just shown you a few of the major ones that will get you started.